Joining me now is Stephen Law, President and CEO of American Crossroads. Prior, he served as Chief Legal Officer of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and was Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Labor under President George W. Bush. Stephen, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on the program, Kathleen.
Now, the GOP held a debate this week in New Hampshire. We'd like to get your thoughts real quickly on some of the candidates, lightning round, if you will, beginning with Mitt Romney.
Well, I think if you look at all the candidates, it's a remarkably strong field. The left and Democrats have been saying that the field is very weak because what they don't want to admit is the fact that President Obama's own substantial weakness in the polls is drawing a huge number of very talented people into the debate. And right now we have a field of 3 governors, possibly a 4th governor joining the ranks, a former Speaker of the House, a former senator, a nationally known congresswoman, and someone who started their own nationally known quick service restaurant chain. So it's a very strong field overall, each one of them with their own strengths as well, but I think we're pretty pleased with the selection that voters will have.
Let's talk about strengths and weaknesses, beginning with Mitt Romney. What's your take on him?
Sure. Well, he's a very, very successful executive both in government and outside of government. He's in some ways a turnaround specialist, which is one of the things that he's highlighting, how he turned around the Olympics by getting involved there. He's also got a sort of a naturally comfortable style that appeals to a lot of people. He's got some issues to overcome in order to make sure that he connects with voters and assures them that he's got the ideological strength that voters are looking for. But he, I think, clearly comes in as a solid front runner, and he did a very good job on Monday night.
What about Michele Bachmann?
I think Michele Bachmann wowed everybody on Monday night. She turned in a very strong performance. Personally, I wasn't surprised. She's a gifted orator, and she's very good at using events like that to capture attention. She's also very smart. She has a tremendous personal story to tell that I think warmed people up to her very quickly. She's had less experience than some of the others. She would need to kind of catch up to put together the kind of team and organization that a couple of the other candidates have, but I think she's certainly a contender who probably is in the top 3 at this point.
What about Herman Cain? The Tea Party loves him. He has that business background.
Yeah, he, I think, did a very good job as well. In some ways, he kind of played the role of that Mike Huckabee did previously, where he boiled down very complex issues to very personal, common sense tones. And I think he did a remarkably good job as well. People who thought that he wasn't going to shine were quite surprised. He had a couple of stumbles in there in a couple places, but certainly nothing of a big concern. Obviously, his greatest strength is also a potential liability. He doesn't have prior government experience, but he did an excellent job, I think, on Monday night of turning that into an asset and telling people that he had the common sense that people needed.
What about former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, whose campaign has had some challenges in the last couple of weeks?
Well, he is obviously one of the party's most brilliant idea people, and on a number of issues and answers that he addressed on Monday night, I thought he really was able to bring to bear a tremendous amount of facts, thought, and vision, and that's his great strength. The challenge, obviously, is to run for president is a very, very sustained exercise in discipline and organization. Some folks say that that's not his strong suit. We'll see. I think he's got to show that, but in any way, he'll be a factor because he's got great ideas and he knows more probably about the government than almost anybody else.
What do you think about Tim Pawlenty?
He's also, I think, did a very good job. Some people fault him for not getting into the ring with Romney. Clearly, that was a strategic decision or maybe a personal one, and maybe he lost an opportunity. But I think what he decided to do with the first debate was just sell himself rather than tear somebody else down. I think he came across well. In particular, his answer on the separation of church and state, he gave a very warm, personal, I think, powerful answer. And I think in several of the other exchanges, he did well also. At some point, he is going to have to distinguish himself from the generally acknowledged front runner, and how he does that, how he comes across, how he's able to deliver that message, I think will be a key test of his candidacy going forward.
What do you think about Rick Santorum?
Oh, I've known Rick Santorum for a long time. He was a great senator. I think he particularly, I think, appeals to the right flank, although he has an ability to talk to blue-collar voters as well, and he did that by being a very successful 2-term senator in a pretty tough swing state of Pennsylvania. I think it's a little bit harder for him because there are a few others who might fill that niche, in particularly Michele Bachmann, I think. So he's got maybe a tougher road to get into that top tier, but he's certainly had a lot of experience, and I think he did a generally good job on Monday night as well.
And Ron Paul?
Yeah, Ron Paul, I think, comes into this field with a very strong core of solidly committed voters. There are people for whom Ron Paul is the key candidate, and he has a very strong, defined ideological view, which I think he did a very good job of communicating on Monday night. I don't know that he expands much beyond that, which might make it difficult for him to get into that top tier, but on the other hand, he probably has more totally dedicated grassroots supporters than anybody else in the room that night.
So who do you think ends up on the ticket?
It's hard to tell. I think if I knew that, I'd go to Vegas and place a bet, but I don't. Presidential primaries are notoriously hard to predict. I think the reality is we've got tremendous selection to choose from, and we may have some more contenders step into the game before it's over. So I think we've got a long way to go. This is the very beginning of the process, but I feel very good about the selections that primary voters are going to have to choose from.
Does the Tea Party control the GOP primary, and if so, is that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, I think the Tea Party is, first of all, is a little hard to define. It represents a lot of people, not all of whom are Republicans. Some of them are independents. Some of them are even disaffected Democrats. But the one thing we do know is they're very concerned about the direction of the country, and they are generally predisposed to be for the kinds of ideals that the Republican Party champions. So that's a good thing. They'll bring energy, they'll bring conviction, and I think they'll get involved. I think they will be a factor in primaries. It's hard to know where and how much and in which states, but I think they'll be a factor, and I think it's always a good thing to have more people joining your cause, people who have energy and passion and conviction.
All right, Stephen Law, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. It's great to be on Newsmax.